Today on Beavertown Outdoors, I'm going to show you a modification I made to the Ranger. So as you know, I've had the Range Road Eco Pro 300 processor for about 2 years now, and it's been a great machine. Definitely, people have asked me, am I still happy with it? Would I buy it again? Sure, absolutely. Doesn't mean I don't want to upgrade someday, and as things grow, that's what we'll do. But one of no machine is perfect, and been some minor things with this. I showed I had the one part break on the direction valve, things like that, little minor things. And I'm actually starting to get, can't really see it, but I'm starting to get a couple of tears in the belt. I do have, Range Road now has a conversion kit to change the belt to a chain conveyor. So I've got that on order. Hopefully that's going to be coming in soon, and when I change it out, you guys will get to watch too. So, but one major flaw I've had with this is it doesn't have anything to do with the processor itself. It's more on the live deck. So the live deck had, where the chains run, it was in C channel, and that channel basically sat right up at the top of the chains, and basically any log that didn't have bark, like green wood that would have bark, it wouldn't grab it very well. I've been running a lot of oak that was standing dead and doesn't have any bark on it, and sometimes the outer bit of it is a little soft from where it had like oak wilt or something like that. So the chains weren't grabbing it very well. And when I looked at other processors, live decks, a lot of them, the chain, it has paddles on the top of the chains for the log table, or if it doesn't, if it's just chains, usually the chains stick up farther. So the log rests right on the chain. Now, I'm hoping Range Road didn't, guard that for a reason. I don't think they did. I mean, this is pretty stout. I've had no trouble with this moving logs as long as it could bite them. So I decided after all this time to make modification to the table. It feels kind of weird cutting on a machine. I end up using a Metabo cutoff saw and changing it. So that was a little weird feeling, but once I got over it, I just did it, and we're going to try it out today, and hopefully it works better. So I'm going to show you what I got going on. So here's the chain for the live deck, and then you can see what's left of it. So I took and I cut down that channel so that the chain would actually stick up above it and the log would ride on it. So down here's what's left. This is how much I cut off. All that stuck up here, and it was keeping the logs from settling on the chain enough for them to grab. I figured that I had two options: either do this or get a different chain. that has, that had attachments and put paddles on it. I didn't want to do that. I figured, why spend money? Why spend money when I can just cut it off? So on both sides, I cut that down. Cut the channel off, and it's not perfect. It's not pretty, but it's a log. It's a live deck for logs. At some point, I'll get around to getting some paint. That's the only thing. The paint on this is actually surprisingly nice. I will give Range Road a lot of credit for that, for their paint. I thought maybe it'd just be cheap paint that would just, flake off or whatever, kind of like my dump trailer. But no, this is actually really good paint, and it was kind of a shame to mess up the paint job by cutting it. But I'll just get some paint and paint over the top of this, and hopefully that'll keep it from rusting up too bad. So yeah, so that's what we did. A little minor modification. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna get I'm gonna get the Branson out, get the grapple on. I'm gonna load up the live deck, and we're gonna run some logs through the Range Road and see if this made a difference. So stay tuned. Okay, so I've got a pretty good mix of, a lot of times I'll load this up more than that, but just for the sake of today, I just want to get kind of a mix of the different stuff that sometimes I have trouble moving in different situations. So first piece I got here, pretty knotty, bendy, twisty. Been having trouble moving those. This one's more of a straighter, nice log. I mean, it does have some knots in it, but these usually weren't too big of a problem. But then moving back here, I've got some of the small stuff. This one's really bendy, but it's up on top. A lot of times I'll have a bunch stacked on top, and I gotta move the whole pile. But with with something down low that maybe it didn't like to grab. So I'm hoping it's going to grab well, because all these logs now are resting on the chains. So hopefully that's going to make a huge difference. But we're going to get fired up. I'm going to switch out to the bucket, get everything set up, and then we'll start running and see how it does. So I had to take a pause here for a minute, and I'm sure some of you noticed the engine was bogging down a bit, and yeah, I was struggling a little bit to cut. I'm pretty sure what it is that the chain that's on here is getting dull. So that's usually a good sign. I mean, it'll power through, but it starts bogging down the engine, use more fuel, and it's pretty much a waste. So I took a minute and sharpened up another chain and one of the spares, and we're gonna get this changed out. So I'm hoping you can get a good view of this. I've never done this on camera, and I'm trying to figure out how best to bring it to you. I still gotta be able to work here, but basically, yeah, see, we're getting a lot of dust. That's one of the signs that chain's about ready to go. Getting more dust than chips. And yeah, like I said, time for the chain to get sharpened. So just gonna get some of the sawdust out of here. But basically, replacing the chain on this is a lot like replacing one on a chainsaw. You just got this block here with 2 bolts, just like your standard saw, and then more like some of the older saws, the adjuster is right here. So we just got a handy little ratchet wrench that I keep in here for adjusting it. It's 13 mil. You just loosen these up. If you want, you can take the whole bar off. You can take the block off. I'm going to try to do it without taking the block completely off and just loosening it up. See if we can do that. The bad part about this adjuster is it gets full of sawdust. But you just kind of dig it out, and then just like I said, just like your regular chainsaw, you just loosen it up and you drop the Allen wrench over there. So after you lose your Allen wrench and you go get another one, you loosen that all the way up. So I tried loosening it all the way up to see if I could take the chain off without removing the bar, but there's just not enough. So we're gonna have to take the block off, take the nuts, try not to lose the washers like I lost the Allen wrench. So what might be a good idea is to actually clean up your sawdust before you go to change this. I'm going to clean this Allen head out just a little bit. This thing almost needs a air compressor built into it. So you can blow this stuff out. But anyway, so alright, now that I got the block off there, we're just going to slide this bar out of here. Actually, I just slide up a little bit. Okay, so I didn't take the bar all the way off. And there's the old chain. But yeah, she's pretty dull. Let's see if you can get in there. Probably didn't see that. Yeah, she doesn't even grip the glove anymore. Alright, so that chain's dull. We're going to put that in the to sharpen pile. And then we got our newly sharpened chain here. I'm going to take take just a minute. I'm actually going to pull the bar off. Make sure the oiling port is clear. Wipe some of the sawdust off. Get some of the sawdust out of here. Doesn't have to be meticulously clean. It's just going to get dirty again. Put the bar back on. Have our newly sharpened chain. Make sure we're pointing the right way. And I just got to go down into the sprocket that's on the hydraulic motor. In there, get in there, you thing. Get the saw bar up on the block. Put our block back on, get it into the adjuster like that. Washer, block washer, washer, block washer, and nuts. And again, try not to drop these. They are a pain to find. When you're full of sawdust below. Just going to get them. They are nylocks, so it takes a little bit to get them in there. So we're just gonna, not gonna tighten them, just bring them in snug so that make sure that adjuster grabs. Still loose. And then tighten the adjuster, just like you do with a chainsaw. Sucks that the Allen wrench I dropped is the type that had the ball end. Those come in real handy for this, especially the initial tightening, because you don't have to have them in straight to work. But you should see the chain tightening up on there. You know, right where it touches. And then just going to kind of push back on the bar a little bit. We're not going to reef this down. We just want it where we can still pull a little bit of chain, but it snaps back in, and then hold it up and tighten it down. Again, not too hard. There we go. Now it might be a little tighter than your normal chainsaw chain. I find it works better if you tighten it a little more, because this ain't the easiest thing in the world to adjust. So I usually tighten it a little extra, and then as it heats up, it settles in real nice. So, all right, that's it. That's it. Chains changed. Nice new sharp grabby chain, and we're gonna finish this off. Alright folks, well, that worked out well. Didn't have any problems with the log deck moving logs. Everything moved along just fine. A lot less hand moving, so, which is what we were after. So I think that was a good thing. So if you own one of these, I highly recommend cutting that channel. Get that channel cut so that the logs rest on the chain. Your life is going to be much easier. So, well, that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you like what you saw. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to share. And until next time, everyone, from all of us here at the beautiful Beavertown compound, take care of each other, be good, stay safe, and I'm out.